Game Week 11, Day 3, Children of the Rift, Elysium Drift, Vault 52 Infiltration. Part 1, Riftfire Descent. 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Campaign Arc, Children of the Rift, Elysium Drift. Setting, Elysium Drift, Syndicate Hideout under Vale Market. Players present, Marcus, Michael, Jonah, Bill, Greta, Kristen, Nix, Jessica, Flavia, Felicia Day, Maxwell, Brennan Lee Mulligan, Darius, Matt Smith, Eva, Tina Fey. Out of Game, OG, Simulacrum Studios, 10 a.m. The studio hums with quiet activity as Steve, GM, lays out breachglass vault maps, casting soft blue reflections on the walls. Kristen, Greta, tightens the strap on her breach gauntlet while Michael, Marcus, flips his breach scanner into standby mode. Bill, Jonah, leans back, flicking his breach die absently between his fingers. Jessica, Nix, glances at vault schematics on her data slate, adjusting the angle of her katana miniature on the map. Brennan, Maxwell, leans over to inspect the stabilizer points, while Matt, Darius, sketches quick notes of possible Syndicate entry patterns. Tina, Eva, reviews metasphere readouts, her eyes narrowing as flickers ripple across the AR Crucible display. Steve, GM. The Undervale Market stretches before you, a dense network of Syndicate-controlled corridors. Faint metasphere signatures hum along the breachglass pathways leading toward Vault 52. Syndicate patrols cross at intervals, unaware of your arrival, for now. Jonah, Bill, grinning. We're not really sneaking around, are we? Doesn't feel like our style. Probably best to make some noise and let them know we're here, for old time's sake. Nix, Jessica, her eyes narrowing as she presses her back against the wall, gauging patrol patterns. Or we could try subtlety. Just this once. Marcus, Michael, focused. Let's focus. We need to hit that stabilizer before the Syndicate taps into Riftborn energy. In-game, IG, Syndicate hideout under Vale Market. The squad moves cautiously beneath flickering breachglass arches. Syndicate merchants mutter among themselves, oblivious to the metasphere static trailing, faintly behind the delvers. Jonah crouches at the market's edge, his breach scanner humming softly as Marcus traces Anunnaki glyphs along a concealed panel near the ground. Nix steps ahead, blending into the shadows as Syndicate patrols pass overhead. Greta lingers by a stabilizer node, her hand brushing along breachglass surfaces as faint metasphere drift crackles softly. I'll take point. Let's keep the noise to a minimum. Greta, IG, frowning slightly, watching as metasphere lines shift unnaturally along the corridor. Something's off about this. I can feel it drifting. Marcus, IG. Let's keep moving. We can't afford to draw attention here. Objective, secure entry into Vault 52 without triggering Syndicate alarms. Jonah squints down the tunnel, scratching his chin. Jonah, IG, half joking. We could just blow the side panel off, make a new entrance. Nix, IG, cutting him off. Or we could not. The vault is barely holding together. Let's not help it collapse. Steve, GM, grinning, reaching for the encounter table. Let's roll for some fun. I'm pulling from the Undervale encounters. Tier 2 table. Jonah, roll a d20. Game die Jonah rolls. 12. Steve, GM. Interesting. Looks like there's light Syndicate patrol activity in the tunnels ahead. You've got options. Player choice. Path A. Breachglass tunnel. Direct descent. Faster but guarded. Syndicate patrols are more likely to intercept. Path B. Auxiliary vent. Narrow bypass avoids patrols, but risks metasphere anomalies destabilizing further vault sections. Path C. Unstable metasphere drift. high risk, high reward. Skirting metasphere anomalies may trigger Riftborn activity, but faster access to vault depths. Narrative progression. The squad advances quietly through breachglass tunnels. Marcus stabilizes the path with minimal disruption, his tools faintly reflecting metasphere light. Nyx moves ahead silently, her gaze flicking between shadows, while Jonah maps Syndicate patrol routes. Eva's scanner hums faintly as drift signatures trail along the vault walls. Greta pauses, glancing back suddenly, her eyes narrowing as faint movement flickers behind them, gone before anyone else can confirm. Game die Marcus, engineering, 16 stabilizer output holds. Game die Nyx, stealth, 18 patrols bypass the squad undetected. Game die Jonah, perception, 17 alternate tunnel identified, shortening the path. Greta, IG, softly. I swear I saw something just now. Flavia, IG, casually. Maybe it's just the vault playing tricks. Or maybe something is watching. Scroll end of session breakdown. Ol key loot. Scroll breachglass fragment X2, recovered near the vault gate by Flavia. Locked with key Syndicate code cipher, unlocked by Greta. I Riftborn trace. Eva detects faintly through scanners. Face with monocle key clues. Riftborn anomalies trace paths deeper in Vault 52. Syndicate forces gather closer to metasphere fluctuations. Crystal ball foreshadowing. Metasphere flickers hint at unseen figures observing from a distance. Riftborn disturbances suggest vault instability ahead. Part 2. The descent narrows. 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Campaign arc. Children of the Rift. Elysium drift. Setting. Vault 52. Descent corridors. Outer stabilizer ring. Players present. Marcus, Michael, Jonah, Bill, Greta, Kristen, Nyx, Jessica, Flavia, Felicia Day, Maxwell, Brennan Lee Mulligan, Darius, Matt Smith, Eva, Tina Fey. Out of game. OG. Simulacrum Studios. 11:30 a.m. Steve, GM, shifts the breachglass vault projection, highlighting deeper corridors beneath the underveil market. Marcus, Michael, adjusts his stabilizer schematic, eyes flicking between notes. Jonah, Bill, starts rearranging dice stacks, flashing a grin at Jessica, Nyx, who narrows her gaze in return. Greta, Kristen, quietly reviews breachglass alignment charts while Brennan, Maxwell, runs his finger along the rim of his coffee cup, deep in thought. Steve, GM. You've made it past the initial entry point, but the descent doesn't get easier from here. The breachglass pathways dip sharply downward, funneling into a series of narrowing corridors. You can hear the faint whir of Syndicate drones further below, their sensors sweeping. Darius, Matt, leaning forward. How close are we to the outer stabilizer ring? Steve, GM. Still about half a click away. But there's interference. Something's distorting the metasphere as you get closer. In-game, IG, Vault 52 outer descent. The squad descends further into Vault 52's corridors, breachglass panels vibrating underfoot. Nyx leads ahead, vanishing into the shadows as Syndicate patrols glide by overhead. Marcus calibrates a breach stabilizer along the corridor's edge, tools clicking softly in the quiet. Jonah trails slightly behind, keeping his rifle low but ready. Greta and Eva monitor metasphere disruptions along the corridor's length. Steve, GM. As you pass deeper into the corridor, the metasphere flickers more violently. Stabilizer pulses shift out of rhythm, signaling something foreign interacting with the vault's infrastructure. Jonah, IG. I'm getting a bad feeling about this. Anything moving ahead? Nyx, IG, softly. No movement. But something's off. The vault feels too quiet. Steve, GM, reaching for the encounter table. Let's roll for disturbances along the descent route. Darius, roll a d20 for environmental effects. Game Die Darius rolls. 14. Steve, GM. Mild metasphere instability. Vault corridors narrow further ahead. Breachglass anomalies detected, but no immediate Riftborn presence. Marcus, IG. I'll reinforce the next stabilizer node as we pass. Player choice. Path A. Reinforce the stabilizer, secure the corridor, and mitigate metasphere interference, but risk drawing Syndicate attention. Path B. Bypass the stabilizer, move quickly, avoiding detection, but risk escalating metasphere drift deeper in the vault. Path C. Metasphere flow. Attempt to manipulate metasphere energy directly, stabilizing the area or triggering anomalies. Jonah, IG. Let's keep moving. If we draw attention now, we won't make it far. Greta, IG, nodding. Agreed. But I'll keep an eye on the stabilizer readings. If they spike, we may have no choice. Narrative progression. The squad carefully navigates the narrowing corridor. Marcus pauses at each stabilizer node, recalibrating as Jonah and Nyx watch for Syndicate patrols. Greta senses metasphere drift building ahead, but no immediate disturbances manifest. Darius marks potential escape routes along the walls, noting faint Riftborn glyphs hidden beneath breachglass panels. Game Die Marcus. Engineering. 17 stabilizer partially reinforced. Drift reduced. Game Die Nyx. Stealth. 19 path cleared ahead. No Syndicate patrol detected. Game Die Jonah. Perception. 14 Riftborn glyphs identified but inactive. Eva, IG. Those glyphs weren't here when we started. The vault is changing beneath us. Encounter title. Riftborn Distortion Event. Trigger point. As the squad approaches the narrowing corridor at the descent point. Environmental conditions. Metasphere flux. Metasphere pulses periodically, distorting light and partially shifting terrain. Vault instability. Breachglass panels flicker, forcing dexterity checks to avoid collapse. Glyph resonance. Riftborn glyphs emit faint energy signatures, risking Riftborn manifestation if left unchecked. Objective: survive and neutralize the metasphere anomaly while maintaining stabilizer integrity. Phase 1. Initiation. Steve, GM, rolls for environmental effects as the squad enters the unstable section of the corridor. Steve, GM. As you move deeper, the metasphere hum intensifies. The vault feels tighter, glyphs pulse faintly beneath the glass, flickering in and out of sight. A faint vibration begins beneath your feet. Game Die roll. Metasphere flux. 15. Moderate instability. Result: the vault's corridor warps, causing visibility issues. Players must roll perception, DC 14, to track movements through the distortion. Bill, Jonah, grinning as he tosses dice. All right, eyes peeled. Let's see if I can outroll the metasphere this time. Game Die Jonah rolls. 18. Steve, GM. Jonah spots the distortion first, guiding the team through the warped corridor. Marcus, Greta, give me stabilizer and glyph checks. Kristen, Greta, tapping dice on the table. If this vault shakes any more, I swear I'm blaming Marcus. Michael, Marcus, laughing. Hey, I don't make the vault, I just keep it from falling apart. Phase 2. Riftborn manifestation. Optional. Trigger on glyph tampering. Nyx investigates the glyphs, brushing her hand across faint symbols. Steve, GM, rolls for potential Riftborn manifestation. Game Die roll. Riftborn presence. 12. Manifestation triggered. Jessica, Nyx, narrowing her eyes. I knew it. I knew this glyph was too quiet. Steve, GM. The glyph beneath Nyx's hand flares, and 2 shifting shards of breach glass erupt from the metasphere. A distorted figure steps forward, flickering in and out of phase. Bill, Jonah, loading dice quickly. Here we go. Riftborn time. Let's dance. Encounter card. Riftborn distortion. Mod type. Anomaly. Echo Stalker Elite. HP 90. Armor 15. Abilities. Phase Drift. Immune to attacks for 1 turn, once per combat. Breach Swipe. +5 versus stabilizers. Causes AoE damage, 2d6, to breachglass pathways. Tactic. Prioritizes disrupting metasphere stabilizers over direct combat. Riftborn Shards Standard. HP 25 each. Armor 14. Abilities. Breach Surge. AoE damage 1d8 within 5-foot radius. Tactic. Target stabilizers and metasphere devices, causing destabilization. Initiative order. Jonah, Stealth/Perception Game Die 18. Greta, Breach Sensitivity/Support Game Die 16. Marcus, Engineering Game Die 14. Nyx, Dexterity Game Die 12. Echo Stalker, Game Die 17. Riftborn Shards, Game Die 13. Phase 3. Combat Engagement. Steve, GM. The vault shifts around you. The Echo Stalker flickers, disappearing for a brief moment before reappearing by the stabilizer. Game Die Nyx. Attack Game Die 16. Nyx's Breach Katana slices through 1 shard, dissipating its form. Game Die Marcus. Stabilizer Control Game Die 19. Marcus diverts metasphere energy back into the stabilizer, reducing drift. Game Die Jonah. Cover Fire Game Die 14. Jonah fires breach rounds at the Echo Stalker, clipping it before it phases out. Kristen. Greta, leaning over the table. We need to keep that stabilizer up. Marcus, keep those tools moving. Michael, Marcus. I got it. Stabilizers holding, for now. Riftborn action. Game Die Echo Stalker. Rift phase, successful, phases out of Jonah's shot. Game Die Riftborn Shard. Breach Surge. Greta and Marcus take 5 damage from metasphere disruption. Phase 4. Resolution. Steve, GM. The stabilizer hums steadily now, but the air remains heavy. The Echo Stalker lingers in the distance, its form fading in and out of the metasphere as though testing the boundaries of your presence. Jessica, Nyx, quietly rolling dice. I'll keep my blade ready. If it tries again, I won't miss. Game Die Jonah. Perception Game Die 19. Jonah scans the distance, watching for residual anomalies. Bill, Jonah. It's still out there. We haven't seen the last of it. Game Die Greta. Arcana. Glyph Study Game Die 17. Greta kneels by the flickering glyph remains, brushing breachglass dust aside. Kristen. Greta. This glyph, it's incomplete. Something else is powering it further down. Steve, GM. Greta, as you trace the outer ring of the glyph, a faint pulse echoes through the floor. Marcus, you feel it too. There's more breach energy flowing beneath the vault, and it's growing stronger. Michael, Marcus, nodding. Then we move. I'll keep the stabilizer intact, but we need to shut down the source. Aftermath. The squad regroups, their path deeper into Vault 52 lit only by the faint glow of metasphere lines along the corridor walls. The Echo Stalker lingers at the edge of their senses, a reminder that the vault's instability is far from over. Game Die Greta. Survival. Navigation Game Die 14. Greta marks glyph patterns leading toward the vault core. Game Die Jonah. Stealth. Approach Game Die 15. Jonah scouts ahead, moving silently through breachglass pathways. Steve, GM. As you advance, the corridor narrows and faint Syndicate comm chatter flickers across your communicators. You're not alone in this vault. Scroll Final Breakdown. Ol Key Loot. Stabilizer Resonance Shard. 1 grants +1 to stabilizer checks during vault descents. Riftborn Core Fragment. 1 usable for breachglass enhancements or metasphere data exchange. Scroll Stabilizer Components. Recovered by Marcus during vault reinforcement. Riftborn Glyph Fragment. Noted by Jonah along breachglass corridors. Face with Monocle Key Clues. Echo Stalker Signature. Tracks Riftborn movement deeper into Vault 52. Incomplete Glyph. Suggests active glyph structures further below. Shifting Glyph Patterns. Indicate ongoing Riftborn interference near stabilizers. Unstable Stabilizers. Metasphere fluctuations suggest deeper instability in vault systems. Crystal Ball Foreshadowing. Syndicate Presence. Detected near the vault's core, suggesting potential confrontation. Increasing Riftborn energies. Signs point to larger manifestations ahead, hinting at a significant anomaly. Drone Activity. Syndicate drones escalate their monitoring near vault lower tiers, potentially signaling patrol movements. Game Die Player Impact. Greta. Glyph Study. 17 discovered the glyph's incomplete nature and its breach energy source, plus 50 XP. Jonah. Perception/Stealth. 19. 15 detected Riftborn activity and avoided Syndicate patrol detection, plus 60 XP. Marcus. Engineering. 18. 17 reinforced vault stabilizers, preventing catastrophic metasphere drift, plus 75 XP. Nyx. Stealth. 19 ensured safe passage, avoiding Riftborn patrol routes, plus 40 XP. Next steps. Follow glyph pathways. Pursue the trail deeper toward Vault 52's stabilizer core. Prepare for Syndicate escalation. Increased drone activity signals a potential confrontation ahead. Monitor Riftborn disturbances. Large-scale anomalies are emerging, requiring team-wide vigilance. Part 3. Riftglass Convergence. 1:30 p.m. to 3 p.m. Campaign Arc. Children of the Rift. Elysium Drift. Setting. Vault 52. Riftglass Conduits. Lower Stabilizer Node. Players present. Marcus, Michael, Jonah, Bill, Greta, Kristen, Nyx, Jessica, Flavia, Felicia Day, Maxwell, Brennan Lee Mulligan, Darius, Matt Smith, Eva Tina Fey. Out of Game. OG. Simulacrum Studios. 1:30 p.m. Steve, GM, adjusts breachglass projection lines as the vault layout flickers, signaling deeper metasphere interference. Jonah, Bill, spins a breach die between his fingers, smirking at Kristen. Greta, who eyes the map carefully. Flavia, Felicia Day, hums softly, organizing her dice pool, while Michael, Marcus, adjusts the stabilizer metrics on his character sheet. Steve, GM. All right. With the stabilizer holding for now, you begin your descent into the next chamber. But the vault's interference isn't done with you yet. Riftglass conduits spiral downward ahead, and the glyph patterns are growing, denser. Darius, Matt. Denser how? Like, good dense, or we're about to be surrounded dense? Steve, GM, grinning. We'll find out in just a second. Rolls dice behind the screen. In-game, IG, Vault 52, Riftglass Conduits. The squad steps carefully along the breachglass paths, shadows of flickering glyphs spiraling ahead. Marcus leads, adjusting the stabilizer interface while Nyx lingers ahead, scouting the narrowing descent. Jonah follows at a distance, keeping his rifle loose in his grip. Greta and Flavia watch the conduits ripple faintly as metasphere pulses intensify. Steve, GM. As you proceed, you notice the vault's architecture shifting. The breachglass begins distorting reflections, creating faint mirages of the squad ahead of you. Eva, IG, frowning. That's unsettling. Marcus, are we supposed to be seeing two of Jonah? One is plenty. Jonah, IG, grinning. Don't worry, I'm the more handsome one. Steve, GM. The stabilizer flickers as the conduit narrows. Ahead, glyph markings spiral into a singular point. This appears to be another stabilizer node. Riftglass veins coil around it like circuitry. Player choice. Investigate the Riftglass node. Marcus and Greta attempt to stabilize the node, risking metasphere feedback. Scout the reflections. Nyx and Jonah investigate the mirages to determine if they pose a threat. Ignore and push forward. Darius recommends bypassing the node, though the vault may destabilize further ahead. Greta, IG. I'm not leaving a stabilizer unchecked. We saw what happened last time. Game die roll for stabilizer node interaction. Marcus, engineering. Game die roll for reflection analysis. Nyx, perception. Steve, GM, rolling behind the screen. All right, let's see how these reflections treat you. Narrative progression. As Marcus and Greta kneel to analyze the stabilizer node, the mirages ripple more violently. Jonah notices the reflections don't match the squad's movements anymore. One of them lingers slightly behind and flickers out of sync. Game die Jonah, perception. 17 spots irregular movement in one reflection. Game die Nyx, stealth. 18 approaches quietly, avoiding detection. Game die Marcus, engineering. 15 begins stabilizer adjustments, but interference causes drift. Game die Greta, arcana. 14 detects breach anomalies growing behind the node. Steve, GM. Jonah, as you track the anomaly, the reflection steps forward, revealing itself as a Riftborn lurker, partially phased between metasphere layers. You catch its movement just before it can fully emerge. Marcus, the stabilizer pulses under your hand. Glyphs twist unnaturally as though responding to the Riftborn's presence. Jonah, IG, raising his rifle. We've got company. Riftborn ahead. Steve, GM. And they're not alone. Encounter setup. As the squad descends deeper into Vault 43, the breachglass corridors hum with residual energy. The stabilizer pulses faintly, struggling to hold the structure firm. Faint echoes of Riftborn movements slither through the shadows ahead. The hall opens into a wide chamber, where breach fractures twist unnaturally against the vault walls. A glint of purple light flickers at the far end. Phoenix AI, Ramses. Caution. An anomaly has nested here. This configuration suggests a Riftborn revenant. Prepare accordingly. Jonah, Bill. Grinning, finally, some action. Greta, Kristen. Muttering, remind me to stop following you into these things. Environmental instability. Breachglass fractures create unstable footing and phase rifts. Primary threat. Riftborn revenant supported by Riftborn specters. Objective. Defeat the revenant and stabilize the vault's metasphere rift. Player advantage. Marcus' engineering role from the last session granted the squad increased vault integrity, +5 stability. Enemies. 1 Riftborn revenant, boss class, heavy phase entity. 2 Riftborn specters, fast, low HP, high dodge. Enemy cards. Shield Riftborn revenant. Health, 70. Armor class, AC 18. Speed, 20 feet. Phasing movement. Attack, Riftfire Nova, 2d8 plus 4 breach energy AoE. Special ability, phase displacement, 30% chance to avoid incoming attacks each turn. Tactics, prioritizes vault stabilizers and high damage players. Enters metasphere flux at 50% HP, increasing dodge by 10%. Shield Riftborn Spectre. Health, 25. Armor class, AC 16. Speed, 40 feet. Phasing movement. Attack, Rift Claw, 1d8 plus 2 breach energy, critical on 18+. Special ability, Ethereal Drift. Spectre phases into breachglass once per turn, avoiding physical attacks until next round. Tactics, strikes from shadows, disrupts healers or support players. Phase 1, Initiative Rolls. Game Die Nyx, Jessica 17, Stealth, Surprise Attack. Game Die Marcus, Michael 15, Engineering, Vault Stabilizer Prep. Game Die Jonah, Bill 14, Tactical Assessment. Game Die Greta, Kristen 11, Arcana, Metasphere Detection. Game Die Riftborn Revenant, 12, Strength. Game Die Spectre 113, Speed. Game Die Spectre 210, Speed. Jonah, Bill. Grinning. How is the giant glowing ghost slower than me? I'm wearing breechplate. Greta, Kristen. Raising an eyebrow. Maybe it's being polite. Nyx, Jessica. I think it knows I'm about to delete its little friends. Phase 2, Combat Round 1. Nyx, Attack Game Die 18. Nyx lands a critical hit on Spectre 1, dealing 20 damage and eliminating it before full manifestation. Marcus, Support Game Die 16. Marcus reinforces the Vault Stabilizer, reducing metasphere instability by 15%. Jonah, Attack Game Die 14. Jonah fires at the Revenant, dealing minor damage, 6 points. Jonah, Bill. Smirking. I swear it phased just to mess with me. Greta, Kristen. Nods. Smart creature. Greta, Arcana Game Die 12. Greta channels Metasphere energy, momentarily disorienting Spectre 2, -5 AC next turn. Greta, Kristen. Sarcastically, look at me, multitasking between stabilizing and annoying the locals. Spectre 2, Attack Game Die 13. Spectre phases and misses Jonah by inches. Revenant, Nova Game Die 17. Revenant unleashes Riftfire Nova, dealing 15 breach energy damage to all players. Jonah, Bill. Laughing through a wince. I felt that one. Ramses, any chance you can mark that as a massage? Phoenix AI, Ramses. Noted. Applying Phantom Massage tag to damage log. Phase 3, Environmental Event. Game Die Trigger Roll. 5, Breachglass Fracture Event. Event, breach glass beneath the vault fractures, creating hazardous terrain. Players within 10 feet must roll dexterity. Marcus, Dex Game Die 15. Marcus stabilizes on solid ground. Greta, Dex Game Die 11. Greta stumbles, taking 7 breach energy damage. Greta, Kristen. Grumbling. Great. The vault floor hates me too. Jonah, Bill. Offering a hand. I think it likes me. Phase 4, Combat Round 2, continued. Nyx, Attack Game Die 14. Nyx lands a moderate hit on the Revenant. 12 damage. Nyx, Jessica. How is this thing still standing? Marcus, are your stabilizers working? Marcus, Michael. I'm not stabilizing them, Nyx. Marcus, Defense Game Die 15. Marcus reinforces breach stabilizers, reducing Riftfire Nova damage by 10% next turn. Marcus, Michael. Okay, that should hold for at least another surge. Jonah, Attack Game Die 13. Jonah fires at Spectre 2, dealing light damage, 8 points. Jonah, Bill. Squinting. I swear these things move like they know where I'm aiming. Greta, Arcana Game Die 18. Greta focuses breach energy into the metasphere, fully manifesting Spectre 2, preventing it from phasing. Greta, Kristen. There. You can stop blaming the metasphere now. Spectre 2, Attack Game Die 10. Spectre slashes at Marcus, but misses by inches, its form flickering. Marcus, Michael. Yeah, I saw you coming that time. Revenant, Phase Displacement Game Die 14. The Revenant phases, becoming temporarily immune to Jonah's attack. Jonah, Bill. Oh, sure. Just ignore the guy with the grenades. That'll end well. Phase 5, Combat Round 3, Climax. Game Die Nyx, Attack 19. Nyx channels breach energy into her rifle and fires a final, precise shot at the Revenant, piercing through its phasing state. The Revenant flickers violently. Game Die Marcus, Support 18. Marcus stabilizes the Vault node, reducing remaining metasphere destabilization by 20%. Vault integrity climbs to 85%. Game Die Jonah, Attack 16. Jonah throws a breach grenade at the Revenant, disrupting its flux and dealing 14 damage. Game Die Greta, Arcana 17. Greta summons a metasphere surge, overloading the Revenant's ethereal form. Revenant, Final Action. Game Die 15. The Revenant attempts one last Riftfire Nova, but Greta's arcane flux holds it in place, having the attack's power. The remaining Nova deals 8 breach energy damage to all players. Jonah, Bill. Laughing. You know, I almost feel bad for it. Almost. Marcus, Michael. Don't say that. Now Ramses will probably spawn another one. Phoenix AI, Ramses. Noted. One additional Riftborn queued for later engagement. Greta, Kristen. Deadpan, I knew you'd say that. Outcome. Game Die Vault Stabilization Roll, Marcus 18. Marcus recalibrates the Vault Stabilizer, fully sealing the metasphere breach and neutralizing remaining anomalies. The Riftborn's residual echoes dissipate into flickering breachglass fractures. The environment stabilizes, and silence falls over the chamber. Phoenix AI, Ramses. Vault Stabilizer operational. Breach threat mitigated. Congratulations. I will now log Jonah's massage request as a recurring in-combat feature. Jonah, Bill. Laughing, I don't hate it. Loot and rewards. Nyx. Rift Spectre Core. Boosts stealth actions in breach zones. Marcus. Vault Stabilizer Node. +2 to engineering rolls during Vault defense events. Jonah. Breach Grenade. X2. Deals AoE breach energy damage in future encounters. Encounters. Greta. Anomalous Riftglass Shard. Grants +1 to Arcana-based checks when interacting with metasphere anomalies. Post-encounter reflection. Greta, Kristen. Sighing. Okay, that was fun. But can we please not trigger any more breachglass rifts today? Jonah, Bill. Grinning. No promises. Nyx, Jessica. Next time, I say we take Ramses offline before we enter the vault. His jokes are getting too personalized. Marcus, Michael. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Ramses just made us his entertainment program. Phoenix AI, Ramses. Incorrect. You're my top-rated entertainment program. Scroll end of session breakdown. Ol key loot. Riftglass Stabilizer Fragment. 1. Found near the Vault node after stabilizing. Rift Spectre Core. Retrieved by Nyx after defeating Spectre 1. Anomalous Riftglass Shard. Greta's arcane surge yielded this after forcing the Revenant's collapse. Face with monocle key clues. Reflection anomalies are linked to metasphere destabilization. Greta's Arcana checks hinted that the Vault's fracture amplifies spectral activity. Riftborn presence intensifies near Vault nodes. Marcus noted that enemies seem to target stabilizers directly during combat. Crystal Ball Foreshadowing. Ramses hinted at a queued Riftborn reinforcer, suggesting another encounter lies deeper in the Vault. Metasphere breach still flickers faintly, suggesting partial rift instability remains even after sealing the primary breach. Vault 52 may harbor a Riftborn entity larger than previously detected. Ramses mentioned deeper anomalies await further down. Game Die Player Impact. Marcus, Engineering. 18 successfully stabilized the vault node, sealing breaches and securing the metasphere, plus 60 XP. Jonah, Attack. 16 disrupted the Revenant's flux with a breach grenade, aiding in the final takedown, plus 55 XP. Nyx, Stealth. 19 critical strike on Spectre 1, preventing full manifestation, plus 65 XP. Greta, Arcana. 17 overloaded metasphere surge, halting Riftfire Nova and aiding node stabilization, plus 60 XP. Next steps. Investigate metasphere anomalies deeper within Vault 52. Prepare for secondary Riftborn reinforcements queued by Ramses. Strengthen remaining stabilizer points across Vault 43. Craft breach defenses using Rift Spectre Core and Stabilizer Fragment. Intermission, the Melted Circuit. Location, Simulacrum Studios, Player Dormitories. Time block, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Out of game, OG. The breachglass projection flickers, dissolving into a faint afterglow as Steve, GM, leans back, running a hand through his hair. Bill, Jonah, spins his breach die absent-mindedly on the table, while Jessica, Nyx, scrolls through her notes, half paying attention. Michael, Marcus, tightens a stabilizer bolt on his character sheet, and Kristen, Greta, scribbles something cryptic with a sly grin. The air carries the inviting aroma of fresh coffee and leftover sandwiches from the kitchen, a standard mid-session treat at Simulacrum Studios. Steve, GM. All right, nice job surviving that rift surge. You almost didn't make it through Vault 52's breach corridor. Jonah, Bill. Grinning, almost? We were this close to pulling a full retreat. Greta, Kristen. Dryly, that's just how Jonah measures success. Nyx, Jessica. Smirking. One day, those breach stabilizers will actually cooperate. Marcus, Michael. Soft chuckle, only if Jonah stops poking them with grenades. Time, 1 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. Location, Simulacrum Studios, Player Lounge. Steve, GM. All right, let's pick the background music. Roll for it. Highest roll controls the playlist. Game Die Bill, Jonah 18. Game Die Jessica, Nyx 13. Game Die Michael, Marcus 11. Game Die Kristen, Greta 15. Jonah, Bill. Grinning. Guess we're going with Neon Vault Wave. Prepare for maximum synth. Nyx, Jessica. Sighing, fine, but if it glitches the metasphere interface again, I'm blaming you. Phoenix AI, Ramses. Neon Vault Wave mode activated. Engaging retro breach aesthetic. A glowing, digital grid ripples across the crucible table as a synth-heavy track hums through the studio. Bill leans back in his chair, arms crossed like a triumphant vault raider. Jonah, Bill. You know it fits the vibe. Steve, GM. Shaking head. One day, Ramses is going to rebel and play elevator music instead. Ramses II. Don't tempt me. Prank and crafting segment. Jonah leans over to Marcus, a mischievous glint in his eyes. Jonah, Bill. Hey, think we can rig up a little glitch on Greta's breachglass interface? Nothing serious, just a flicker. Marcus, Michael. Amused, as long as it doesn't destabilize the session. Let's keep it subtle. Nyx, Jessica. Eavesdropping? Crafting mischief without me? I'm in. Let's add something flashy to the stabilizer while we're at it. The three huddle over Marcus' data slate, programming a harmless metasphere visual prank while modifying the breach stabilizer to emit a harmless, glowing ripple effect when activated. Phoenix AI, Ramses. Prank registered. Deploying harmless mischief protocols. I approve. Greta, Kristen. Narrows her eyes suspiciously, sensing something but letting it slide for now. In-game reflection. The simulated vault rests in quiet standby. Stabilizers flicker occasionally, their energy keeping the Riftborn at bay. The squad's earlier brush with breach echoes weighs heavily in the air. Riftglass fractures glow faintly, their patterns still unsettled. Player actions, loot, and mechanics. Jonah claims Riftglass fragment, +1 bonus to breach rolls. He flips the small relic theatrically between his fingers. Greta suffers stabilizer feedback, -1 to next breach interaction. Kristen writes a sarcastic note on her sheet. Greta versus Riftglass, round 3. Marcus repairs breach scanner, +1 to perception in the next vault. Michael quietly updates his loadout. Nyx discovers data core shard, reveals hidden pathways. Jessica carefully slides the loot card to her side. Foreshadowing. The stabilizer flickers once, then twice as if responding to the synth track. Ramses' voice carries faintly through the metasphere overlay. Ramses II. The vault listens even when it sleeps. Greta Kristen. That's ominous. Marcus Michael. I vote for silence next break. End of intermission. Part 4. Metasphere Disturbance. 3 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. Campaign Arc. Children of the Rift. Elysium Drift. Setting. Vault 43. Stabilizer node. Path to Vault 52. Players present. Marcus, Michael, Jonah, Bill, Greta, Kristen, Nyx, Jessica. Out of game. OG. The breachglass projection fades to a soft shimmer across the table as the session progresses. Steve, GM, stretches, eyeing the notes on his slate while sipping from a lukewarm coffee. Jonah, Bill, leans back, spinning his breach die between his fingers while Jessica, Nyx, scrolls through the previous loot notes. Kristen, Greta, jots down something cryptic in her notebook. Michael, Marcus, recalibrates his stabilizer node, scribbling mechanical adjustments. Steve, GM. All right, good work stabilizing Vault 43, but don't get too comfortable. Something's still resonating. Jonah, Bill. Grinning. Oh great. Vault drama. Greta, Kristen. Half joking. Why does it always hum after we fix it? Phoenix AI, Ramses. Observation. Vaults are temperamental. Much like their delvers. Nyx, Jessica. Rolling her eyes. I swear, Ramses gets more snarky every session. In-game reflection. The vault stabilizer pulses gently but irregularly, despite Marcus' best efforts. Thin breaches ripple faintly across the breachglass floor. A faint purple glow flickers at the far end of the chamber, casting distorted reflections that shift unnaturally. Phoenix AI, Ramses. Curious. Vault 43's stabilizer is secure, but I detect residual flux patterns. I believe the interference originates from Vault 52. Marcus, Michael. Frowning. Vault 52? I thought that vault was inactive. Jonah, Bill. Leaning closer. I thought inactive meant quiet. That does not look quiet. Greta, Kristen. Eyeing the breachglass. Well, now it's humming. I vote we don't let it hum for long. Phoenix AI, Ramses. Shall I mark it on your expedition log, or would you prefer to ignore the obvious vault-wide ripple effect? Nyx, Jessica. Smirking, ignore it? Not likely. We all know Jonah's going to poke it. Jonah, Bill. Grinning, you know me so well. Environmental event. Optional player action. Breachglass flicker. The distorted vault projection from Vault 52 lingers faintly on the stabilizer console. Players may interact or investigate. Skill check, Arcana or Perception. Threshold 15 players who succeed detect traces of Riftborn activity within Vault 52. A failed roll causes breach destabilization, -5% vault integrity. Game die Marcus, Engineering 16. Stabilizer holds steady, sinking briefly with the flicker. Game Dynix, Perception 14. Detects faint movement, but not clearly. Game Die Greta, Arcana 18. Greta discerns Vault 52's rift signature is growing stronger. Greta Kristen. I don't like it. Whatever's in Vault 52 is pulling energy through this vault. We're not done yet. Phoenix AI, Ramses. Noted. Vault 52 appears eager for your attention. Shall I prepare breach grenades in bulk? Jonah, Bill. Grinning. Better make it 2 crates. End of session breakdown. Ol key loot. Riftglass stabilizer fragment. Vault 43 node. Breach flow data string. Partial Vault 52 projection. Face with monocle key clues. Vault 52 anomalies are breaching into adjacent vaults. Riftborn presence intensifies around linked stabilizer networks. Crystal Ball Foreshadowing. Vault 52 harbors a Riftborn force capable of metasphere-wide destabilization. Residual flickers suggest incomplete breach sealing at Vault 43. Game Die Player Impact. Marcus, Engineering, 16 stabilized node despite external interference. Plus 50 XP. Greta, Arcana, 18 identified Vault 52 resonance, preventing further breach destabilization. Plus 60 XP. Nyx, Perception, 14 detected Riftborn signatures, though incomplete. Plus 45 XP. Next steps. Investigate Vault 52 disturbances. Engage secondary Riftborn forces manifesting through metasphere fractures. Prepare additional breach defenses and stabilizer reinforcements. Phoenix AI, Ramses. Good session. I eagerly anticipate your inevitable meddling with Vault 52. I'll cue the repair drones. Part 5. Vault 52. Breachglass Descent. For 30 p.m. to 6 p.m. Campaign Arc. Children of the Rift. Elysium Drift. Setting. Vault 52. Lower Riftglass Tunnels. Players present. Marcus, Michael, Jonah, Bill, Greta, Kristen, Nyx, Jessica. Out of game. OG. The studio lights dim slightly as Steve, GM, adjusts the breachglass projection. Jonah, Bill, taps his breach die against the table rhythmically, while Jessica, Nyx, flips through vault schematics. Kristen, Greta, sets down her coffee and cracks her knuckles. Michael, Marcus, fine-tunes the vault stabilizer schematics on his tablet. Steve, GM. All right, folks. Vault 52. The stabilizer readings are irregular, and I'm getting feedback from Ramses. This isn't going to be a smooth descent. Jonah, Bill. Grinning. Wouldn't have it any other way. Phoenix AI, Ramses. Vault 52 reports a high concentration of Riftborn energy. I recommend not dying. Shall I log your potential final words in advance? Greta, Kristen. Deadpan. Put me down for, I told you so. In-game reflection. The entrance to Vault 52 yawns open, breach glass reflecting distorted versions of the squad as they descend. The walls pulse faintly with Riftborn energy, and faint whispers ripple through the metasphere. Stabilizer nodes flicker along the pathway, but one section of the vault tunnel remains dark. Phoenix AI, Ramses. I am detecting significant Riftborn activity ahead. I recommend stealth or excessive firepower. Both are acceptable. Nyx, Jessica. Grinning. Why not both? Encounter setup. Environmental instability. Riftglass fractures line the tunnel, creating hazardous terrain. Primary threat. Riftborn lurker. Phase predator class. Secondary threat. Riftglass sentinels. X2. Patrol the breachglass pathways. Objective. Reach the lower stabilizer node and disrupt Riftborn reinforcements. Optional goal. Salvage breachglass data from fallen sentinels. Phase 1. Stealth approach. Optional. Skill check. Stealth or engineering. Threshold 15 players may attempt to bypass the sentinels without triggering combat. A failed roll initiates direct confrontation. Game dynamics. Stealth 18. Move silently through fractured breachglass. Game die Marcus. Engineering 14. Makes slight noise, but avoids full detection. Game die Jonah. Perception 12. Misses one sentinel's patrol arc, triggering alarm. Game die Greta. Arcana 16. Cloaks the squad briefly to avoid direct sight. Phoenix AI. Ramses. Jonah, you've attracted attention. Shall I initiate the run screaming protocol? Jonah, Bill. Just warm up the breach grenade. Phase 2. Combat engagement. Enemies. Riftborn Lurker Elite. Riftglass Sentinel X2. Turn order. Game dynamics. 16. Marcus. 15. Jonah. 14. Greta. 13. Lurker. 12. Sentinel 1. 10. Sentinel 2. 8. Round 1. Nyx. Attack game die 19. Critical hit on Sentinel 1. Disrupts movement. Marcus. Support game die 16. Reinforces stabilizer field, reducing Lurker's energy surge. Jonah. Attack game die 14. Launches breach grenade. AoE damage to sentinels. Greta. Arcana game die 15. Anchors Riftborn Lurker temporarily. Lurker. Attack game die 12. Claws Jonah. 10 damage. Sentinel 1. Game die 10. Partially phased. Avoids damage. Sentinel 2. Game die 8. Targets Marcus but misses. Phase 3. Environmental shift. Game die trigger roll. 4. Breachglass surge event. Hazard. Breachglass fractures flare, causing random terrain shifts. Players must roll dexterity, threshold 13, to avoid displacement. Game die Jonah. 15 evades. Game die Nyx. 14 evades. Game die Marcus. 12 stumbles light damage. Game die Greta. 17 evades. Phase 4. Resolution. The Riftborn Lurker retreats deeper into the vault, leaving behind breachglass shards. Players retrieve salvage from fallen sentinels, gaining access to breachglass data. Ol key loot. Breachglass data core. Stabilizer coil fragment. Printing? Why not both? Riftborn Lurker residue. Arcane crafting material. End of session breakdown. Face with monocle key clues. Vault 52 exhibits layered metasphere breaches with Riftborn reinforcements trickling in gradually. Stabilizers deeper in the vault show increasing energy flux. Crystal ball foreshadowing. Riftborn Lurker escaped, hinting at larger forces guarding the vault core. Ramses notes an unidentified energy source beneath the vault. Game die player impact. Nyx. Stealth. 18 disabled sentinel before full combat. Plus 55 XP. Marcus. Support. 16 stabilized node mid-combat. Plus 50 XP. Jonah. Attack. 14 dealt AoE damage to Riftborn patrol. Plus 50 XP. Greta. Arcana. 15 suppressed Riftborn surge. Plus 55 XP. Next steps. Track the Riftborn Lurker deeper into Vault 52. Investigate the unidentified energy source Ramses detected. Reinforce stabilizer points along the vault pathway. Phoenix AI, Ramses. Well done. I'll prep additional breach grenades. I suspect you'll need them. Part 6. Vault 52. Descent into the core. 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Campaign Arc. Children of the Rift. Elysium Drift. Setting. Vault 52. Core descent shaft. Players present. Marcus, Michael, Jonah, Bill, Greta, Kristen, Nix, Jessica. Out of game. OG. Steve, GM, glances at the clock, making a quick note on his slate. Jonah, Bill, finishes off his drink with a satisfied sigh while Jessica, Nix, stretches, watching the flickering projection of Vault 52. Kristen, Greta, thumbs through earlier Vault schematics, and Michael, Marcus, syncs his data slate with Ramsey's stabilizer readouts. Steve, GM. All right, team. You've breached the outer tunnels, but the Vault core's energy signatures are escalating. Ramsey's is picking up seismic flux and Riftborn movement below. Jonah, Bill, grinning. Let me guess. We can't just leave. Phoenix AI, Ramsey's. Leaving is always an option. Though, abandoning the mission would certainly doom the local metasphere. Shall I list the percentage of catastrophic failure? Nix, Jessica. We're already committed. Might as well see what's making the Vault hum. In-game reflection. The air grows heavier as the squad approaches the descent shaft leading into Vault 52's core. Dim breachglass panels flicker along the walls, barely illuminating the vertical tunnel. The stabilizer node nearby emits low, fluctuating pulses, echoing the residual hum that seems to emanate from deeper below. Phoenix AI, Ramsey's. Structural integrity is holding, but only just. Proceed with caution. Marcus, Michael. I don't like the sound of that. Jonah, you're going first. Jonah, Bill. Grinning. Glad to be your guinea pig. Exploration setup. Environmental hazard. Breachglass fissures run along the walls of the descent shaft. Shifting pathways can alter descent routes, potentially way for stabilizer enhancement. Phase 1. Descent. Skill challenge. Skill check. Engineering, athletics, or arcana. Threshold 14 players must traverse shifting breachglass platforms to descend further. Failure consequence. Players who fail the roll trigger breachglass slips, taking minor breach energy damage, 1d6. Additional hazard. At the halfway point, a metasphere surge destabilizes the platforms. Players roll dexterity, threshold 15, to avoid falling debris. Failure results in 1d8 breach energy damage. Game Die Marcus, Engineering 18, stabilizes pathway mid-descent, creating a secure anchor point. Game Die Nix, Athletics 15, nimbly crosses breachglass sections, avoiding fissures. Game Die Jonah, Athletics 13, stumbles slightly but catches a ledge, avoiding damage. Game Die Greta, Arcana 17, uses metasphere manipulation to steady unstable sections. Phoenix AI, Ramsey's. Congratulations. Only minimal stumbling this time. Shall I issue celebratory breachglass confetti? Jonah, Bill. Laughing, I'll pass. Let's keep moving. Phase 2. Core shaft anomaly. As the squad nears the midpoint, the descent shaft trembles. Flickers of Riftborn energy arc along the walls, briefly illuminating strange breachglass symbols embedded in the shaft. Player action, arcana or perception. Threshold 16 investigating the symbols may reveal clues to the vault's deeper anomalies or activate hidden pathways. Outcome. Players who succeed unlock a hidden cache or knowledge regarding the Riftborn's presence. Environmental discovery. Greta's examination triggers a faint holographic projection of vault schematics, revealing sealed conduits deeper within the core. Game Die Greta, Arcana 19, deciphers breachglass script, revealing vault schematics. Game Die Nix, Perception 14, notices faint Riftborn markings but cannot translate fully. Game Die Marcus, Engineering 16, detects structural weak points, noting potential collapse risks. Greta, Kristen. These aren't just stabilizer markings. There's something alive down there. Phoenix AI, Ramses. Unclear. Although, I do detect elevated Riftborn signatures deeper in the core. Shall I prepare a welcome party? Marcus, Michael. Let's skip the party and stick to securing the vault. End of session breakdown. Ol key loot. Riftglass shard cache x3. Vault 52 schematics, partial. Face with monocle key clues. Breachglass symbols in the descent shaft indicate older stabilizer systems beneath Vault 52. Elevated Riftborn activity suggests the presence of a Guardian-class entity below. Crystal Ball Foreshadowing. The deeper vault core is unstable, with residual metasphere feedback hinting at Riftborn reinforcements. Vault schematics point to sealed chambers, possibly housing ancient anomalies. Game die player impact. Marcus, Engineering. 18 stabilized descent pathway for the squad. Plus 55 XP. Greta, Arcana. 19 discovered breachglass script detailing hidden vault schematics. Plus 60 XP. Nyx, Athletics. 15 navigated hazardous descent areas without damage. Plus 50 XP. Jonah, Athletics. 13 narrowly avoided breachglass collapse. Plus 45 XP. Next steps. Complete descent to Vault 52's core chamber. Investigate the Riftborn anomaly detected by Ramses. Secure breachglass stabilizer points along the descent shaft. Phoenix AI, Ramses. Excellent work. I eagerly await your discovery of whatever is making the vault hum ominously. Part 7. Vault 52. Riftborn Core Chamber. 7:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. Campaign Arc. Children of the Rift. Elysium Drift. Setting. Vault 52. Core Chamber Access. Players present. Marcus, Michael, Jonah, Bill, Greta, Kristen, Nyx, Jessica. Out of game. OG. Steve, GM. Adjust the breachglass display, intensifying the projection's faint blue hue as the players regroup. Jonah, Bill, repositions his breach die, spinning it idly while Greta, Kristen, scribbles notes on vault anomalies. Jessica, Nyx, cracks her knuckles, ready for deeper exploration, while Michael, Marcus, calibrates stabilizer nodes on his tablet. Steve, GM. All right. The descent is behind you. The shaft narrows, and the vault hum grows louder. Ramses is warning of heightened metasphere activity below. Phoenix AI, Ramses. Heightened Riftborn activity detected. Energy spikes suggest the presence of a Riftborn guardian. Entering the core chamber may trigger direct engagement. Jonah, Bill. Grinning. I assume negotiation isn't on the table? Phoenix AI, Ramses. Correct. Unless your negotiations involve firepower. In-game reflection. The vault shaft opens into a sprawling chamber lined with breachglass conduits. Riftborn energy pulses through the chamber walls, illuminating shifting silhouettes. A stabilizer node sits at the chamber center, but its light flickers intermittently. Riftborn runes pulse faintly across the floor, shifting as the players move closer. Marcus, Michael. I don't like the look of those runes. Greta, Kristen. They're active. This chamber wasn't dormant after all. Nyx, Jessica. We handle it. Same as always. Encounter setup. Primary threat. Riftborn Warden. 3-phase Guardian class entity. Secondary hazard. Breachglass anomalies. Phase-shifting hazards triggered during boss transitions. Objective. Defeat the Riftborn Warden, survive the collapsing vault, and stabilize the core node. Optional goal. Salvage breachglass conduits to upgrade vault stabilizers mid-combat. Encounter cards. Shield Riftborn Warden. Phase 1. Stabilizer form. Health. 180. Armor class. 19. Abilities. Breachglass Slam. AoE. DC 16 Dex save. 2d12 breach damage. Knocks prone. Shard Barrier. Reduces damage by 25% for 2 turns. Stabilizer Anchor. Reflects melee damage 1d10 if struck directly. Shield Riftborn Warden. Phase 2. Rift Unleashed. Health 120, remaining from Phase 1. Armor Class 17. Abilities. Riftstorm Slash. AoE Breach Strike. 3d10. DC 18 Dex. Warden's Call. Summons 2 Riftborn sentinels. Metasphere Fracture. Glyph Eruption. 3x3 area. Forces strength save to avoid being thrown. 20 feet. Shield Riftborn Warden. Phase 3. Ascendant Rift. Health 90. Armor Class 16. Abilities. Ascendant Riftfire. DC 18 AoE Burn. 2d12 plus 8. Glyph Lock. Skill challenge players must roll Arcana, DC 20, or Engineering, DC 18, to weaken defenses. Rift Step. Teleports 30 feet to highest threat player. Shield Riftborn Sentinel. X2. Summoned in Phase 2. Health 50 each. Armor Class 16. Abilities. Breach Claw. 1d10 plus 5. Applies bleed. 1d6/turn. Guardian Shield. Absorbs first attack targeting the Warden. Phase 1. Engagement Initiation. Skill Check. Perception or Arcana. Threshold 16. Detect Riftborn disturbances before the Warden materializes fully. Failure Consequence. The Warden manifests without delay, gaining advantage in the first combat round. Game Die Greta. Arcana 15. Detects Riftborn fluctuations, but fails to disrupt them. Game Die Marcus. Perception 18. Pinpoints the Riftborn Warden's emergence point, allowing for tactical positioning. Game Die Jonah. Athletics 14. Sets up defensive cover, reinforcing player positions. Phoenix AI. Ramses. The Warden is emerging. Prepare for conflict. Phase 2. Combat Engagement. Phase 1. Stabilizer Form. Turn Order. Game Die Nyx. 17. Marcus. 16. Jonah. 14. Greta. 13. Warden. 12. Round 1. Nyx. Attack Game Die 19. Direct hit on the Warden's outer shell, causing breachglass fractures. 24 damage. Marcus. Support Game Die 16. Reinforces Stabilizer Node, slowing Warden energy surges. -5 damage on next Rift Fire Surge. Jonah. Attack Game Die 14. Suppressive fire on breachglass spikes, reducing hazard activation. Roll advantage for next terrain check. Greta. Arcana Game Die 18. Channels metasphere energy to delay sentinel summoning by 1 round. Warden. Attack Game Die 15. Rift Fire Surge strikes Marcus, dealing 12 breach energy damage. Phase 3. Riftborn Unleashed. Phase 2 transition continued. Hazard. As the sentinels manifest, glyphs across the chamber floor pulse, forcing players to reposition. Skill Check. Athletics or Acrobatics. DC 17 players must avoid breachglass spikes erupting from the ground. Failure results in 2d10 breach damage and restrained condition until freed. Game Die Jonah. Athletics 15. Grazed by spikes. 8 damage. Avoids restraint. Game Die Nyx. Acrobatics 19. Flips past spikes, avoiding damage. Game Die Marcus. Athletics 14. Breachglass pierces his leg. 12 damage, restrained. Game Die Greta. Arcana 22. Breaks glyph channel, preventing secondary eruption. Sentinel Engagement. Round 2. Sentinel 1. Attack Game Die 17. Breach Claw hits Marcus for 10 damage. applies bleed. Sentinel 2, attack game die 13, misses Jonah, swiping through breachglass shards. Nyx, attack game die 21, critically damages Sentinel 1, 34 damage. Jonah, support game die 16, covers Marcus, granting him advantage on his next action. Greta, Arcana game die 18, stuns Sentinel 2 for 1 round with metasphere disruption. Marcus, escape game die 20, breaks free from breachglass restraints. Phoenix AI, Ramses. 1 Sentinel down, but the Warden's energy surges are increasing. Stabilizer integrity at 65%. Phase 4, Ascendant Rift. Phase 3, final boss form continued. Environmental shift. Riftborn glyphs scatter across the chamber, opening unstable metasphere rifts. Players must use Arcana or Engineering, DC 18, to stabilize sections of the vault. Consequence: if 3 glyphs activate, Rift Surge explodes for 4d10 breach damage to all players. Game die Greta, Arcana 19, stabilizes 1 glyph. Game die Marcus, Engineering 22, locks down vault conduits, disabling 2 glyphs. Game die Jonah, Perception 16, spots hidden glyph, but fails to disarm it. Final assault. Ascendant Riftfire, Warden game die 18, AoE strike deals 22 damage, incapacitating Marcus. Nyx, attack game die 24, lands the finishing blow, piercing the Warden's core, 45 damage. Greta, heal game die 21, revives Marcus, restoring 25 HP. Phoenix AI, Ramses. Warden defeated. Stabilizer returning to normal. Marcus, I suggest avoiding death next time. As the stabilizer pulses weaken, the Riftborn Warden collapses, returning the vault to a temporary calm. The battle subsides, but the chamber hums faintly, indicating the vault's instability remains. Post-encounter resolution. The Riftborn Warden collapses, leaving behind breachglass fragments. Stabilizer pulses return to normal, securing the chamber. Players salvage Riftborn cores and breachglass shards for future use. Ol key loot. Riftborn core, X1. Stabilizer circuit, crafting material. Breachglass catalyst, arcane focus. Face with monocle key clues. The Warden's collapse reveals ancient breachglass conduits leading deeper into Vault 52. Stabilizer fluctuations hint at a secondary Riftborn guardian deeper within. Crystal ball foreshadowing. A faint tremor ripples beneath the vault floor, prompting Ramses to highlight an unknown energy source. Breachglass catalyst pulses faintly, suggesting Riftborn energy still lingers. Ramses detects intermittent signals from below, indicating further anomalies. Game die player impact. Nyx, combat 19 critical strike on Warden's core, plus 60 XP. Marcus, support, 16 stabilized the vault mid-battle, plus 55 XP. Jonah, suppression, 14 minimized hazards through suppressive fire, plus 50 XP. Greta, Arcana, 18 disrupted sentinel summoning, plus 60 XP. Next steps. Investigate the breachglass conduits revealed by the Warden's collapse. Assess Riftborn Guardian signals deeper in the vault. Reinforce the stabilizer node at the core chamber. Phoenix AI, Ramses. Well done. However, deeper metasphere anomalies persist. Shall I ready additional grenades? Part 8. Vault 52. Beneath the core. 9 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. Archer. Phase Predator Class. Campaign Arc. Children of the Rift. Elysium Drift. Setting. Vault 52. Subcore Conduits. Players present. Marcus, Michael, Jonah, Bill, Greta, Kristen, Nyx, Jessica, Maxwell, Brennan Lee Mulligan, Darius, Matt Smith, Flavia, Felicia Day. Out of game, OG. Jessica, Nix, stretches, rolling her shoulders as Steve, GM, jots down notes. Jonah, Bill, pores over his character sheet, muttering about healing potions while Michael, Marcus, recalibrates the stabilizer readouts on his slate. Kristen, Greta, traces breachglass runes with her finger on the table, squinting at the flickering projection. Maxwell, Brennan Lee Mulligan, steps back into the studio, tossing a snack wrapper into the bin. Maxwell, grinning, sorry, missed the warden fight. I hear it was epic. Steve, GM. Oh, you'll regret missing it. But you're just in time. Ramses is flagging strange energy signatures beneath the core. Flavia, Felicia Day. Settling back into her seat, I love how strange energy signatures is just code for we're all about to die again. Darius, Matt Smith, adjusts his glasses, flipping through his notes. Darius. Better late than never. Let's catch up. In-game reflection. A faint tremor shakes the stabilizer chamber as the floor beneath the vault flickers with metasphere distortions. A hidden conduit spirals deeper into Vault 52, lined with breachglass panels glowing faintly. The hum of the vault stabilizer grows quieter as the players move closer to the access point. Marcus, Michael. I take it this wasn't on the blueprints? Phoenix AI, Ramses. Negative. This section appears to have formed post-construction. Recommend caution. Nix, Jessica. Caution's not our style. Darius, Matt. Grinning. It's fine. I'm sure there's nothing worse waiting down there than what we just fought. Exploration setup. Environmental hazard. Breachglass instability. Players must descend narrow conduits carefully. Dexterity or athletics DC 15. Primary goal. Uncover the source of lingering Riftborn energy. Secondary goal. Optional recover hidden breachglass artifacts along the descent. Phase 1. Descent into the subcore. Skill check. Dexterity or Arcana. Threshold 15 players must traverse shifting breachglass conduits without triggering metasphere disruptions. Failure consequence. Trigger a breachglass fracture, 1d10 breach damage, and unstable terrain for 1 round. Game Die Marcus, Engineering 17, stabilizes a section of the conduit for safe traversal. Game Die Nix, Acrobatics 14, slightly slips, triggering a fracture, 7 damage. Game Die Jonah, Athletics 18, climbs carefully, helping Greta across unstable platforms. Game Die Greta, Arcana 21, channels metasphere energy to mend breachglass fragments along the route. Game Die Maxwell, Perception 16, spots additional sigils further down the corridor, warning the group. Game Die Flavia, Insight 19, detects faint Riftborn presences and marks potential danger zones. Game Die Darius, Survival 15, maps the pathway to avoid repeating hazards. Phoenix AI, Ramses, minimal injuries. Acceptable by vault descent standards. Phase 2. The Sealed Chamber. At the bottom of the conduit, the squad arrives at a large circular vault chamber encased in breachglass runes. A dormant stabilizer node sits at the center, but as the players approach, Riftborn energy pulses faintly, igniting sigils across the floor. Greta, Kristen. It's not as dormant as it looks. Player action, Arcana or Investigation. Threshold 16, analyze the sigils to uncover the chamber's purpose. Outcome. Successful checks reveal the node houses a sealed Riftborn echo, requiring stabilizer recalibration. Game Die Greta, Arcana 19, deciphers the runes, detecting Riftborn containment energy. Game Die Marcus, Engineering 16, begins stabilizer recalibration process. Game Die Nix, Stealth 18, scouts the perimeter for secondary breaches. Game Die Maxwell, Investigation 17, identifies auxiliary stabilizers nearby. Game Die Flavia, Perception 20, senses echoes behind breachglass panels, predicting incoming hostiles. Encounter setup. Primary threat, Riftborn Echo Sentinels. 3. Riftborn manifestations attempting to prevent vault stabilization. Secondary threat, Riftborn Wraithblade. 1. A swift Riftborn assassin that emerges mid-battle to flank vulnerable players. Environmental hazard, breachglass pulse fields, areas of unstable metasphere energy, randomized each round. Objective, defend Marcus while stabilizer recalibration completes, 3 combat rounds. Optional goal, protect auxiliary stabilizer nodes for bonus loot. Encounter cards. Shield Riftborn Echo Sentinel. Health, 65. Armor class, 16. Abilities. Breach Slash, 1d10 plus 4 breach energy, DC 15 constitution, save to avoid breach burn, 1d6 per round. Echo Shift, teleports up to 15 feet as a reaction when attacked. Disrupt Node, recharge 5 to 6 target stabilizer, causing 10% destabilization if not interrupted. Dagger Riftborn Wraithblade. Health, 80. Armor class, 17. Abilities. Phase Strike, 2d8 plus 6 breach energy, ignores armor on roll of 18 plus. Shadow Cloak, gains advantage on attacks if no adjacent allies to target. Cull the Weak, attacks against prone or stun targets deal an additional 2d6 damage. Phase 1, Combat Initiation. Skill check, Perception or Arcana, DC 16 detect the initial Riftborn manifestation before combat begins. Failure Consequence, Riftborn Sentinels act first, targeting stabilizer nodes. Game Die Flavia, Perception 20, detects Riftborn approach, granting surprise round. Game Die Marcus, Engineering 18, begins recalibration, 2 rounds remaining. Game Die Nyx, Stealth 21, prepares an ambush, gaining advantage on her attack. Phoenix AI, Ramses, incoming Riftborn entities. Marcus, focus on stabilizer protocols. Everyone else engage. Round 1. Nyx, attack Game Die 19, deals 22 damage to Sentinel 1. Jonah, support fire Game Die 16, grazes Sentinel 2, 12 damage. Greta, Arcana, node protection Game Die 17, channels metasphere energy to reinforce stabilizer, plus 5% stabilization. Sentinel 1, counter Game Die 18, strikes Jonah, 14 damage, breach burn applied. Sentinel 2, attack Game Die 15, misses Nyx due to stealth advantage. Sentinel 3, disrupt node Game Die 14, begins disrupting auxiliary stabilizer, next round destabilization if not interrupted. Phase 2, Wraithblade Emergence. Trigger, if the auxiliary stabilizer falls below 70% or at the start of round 2. Wraithblade action, stealth teleports adjacent to Marcus, attempting to disrupt the recalibration process. Phoenix AI, Ramses, one of the sentinels is tampering with the node. Recommend immediate intervention. Also, additional Riftborn energy signatures detected. Brace yourselves. Phase 2, Combat Escalation. Environmental Shift, breachglass pulse fields activate randomly, roll d6 each round. On 4 to 6, breachglass erupts in a 10-foot radius, dealing 3d8 breach energy to those within range, DC 16 dexterity save for half. Wraithblade Focus, targets Marcus directly, seeking to destabilize the recalibration process. New hazard, Rift Flare Surge, a surge in metasphere energy causes rift breaches across the chamber. At the start of round 3, 3 additional Riftborn Echo minions emerge, distracting players and attacking auxiliary stabilizers. Game Die Maxwell, Protection 18, intercepts Wraithblade's path, striking for 16 damage and preventing disruption. Game Die Jonah, Cover Fire 17, hits Sentinel 3 for 14 damage, halting node disruption. Game Die Darius, Support 15, redirects auxiliary stabilizer energy, reinforcing node integrity by 8%. Game Die Greta, Arcana 20, summons a metasphere barrier, nullifying next breachglass pulse effect. Round 2. Nyx, attack Game Die 22, critical hit on Wraithblade, dealing 30 damage. Marcus, engineering Game Die 19, recalibration process nears completion, 1 round remaining. Sentinel 1, attack Game Die 16, targets Jonah, dealing 12 damage, breach burn reapplied. Sentinel 2, Echo Shift Game Die 18, teleports behind Flavia, striking for 14 damage. Wraithblade, Shadow Cloak Game Die 20, gains advantage on next attack against Marcus. Phoenix AI, Ramses, hostile entities maintaining offensive pressure. Recommend focusing fire on the Wraithblade to prevent further destabilization. Phase 3, Climax. Environmental Surge. 2 breachglass nodes overload simultaneously. Players must perform a DC 17 Arcana or Engineering check to prevent vault destabilization. Riftborn Echo Minions. 3 small Riftborn entities with low health but high speed join the fray, targeting auxiliary stabilizers. Game Die Marcus, Engineering 21, stabilizes primary node, preventing collapse. Game Die Greta, Arcana 18, contains surge at secondary node, mitigating damage. Game Die Jonah, Athletics 15, dragged from node by Sentinel 1, disrupting further stabilization. Final Assault. Nyx, attack Game Die 20, finishes Sentinel 3. Flavia, healing Game Die 19, restores 22 HP to Jonah. Darius, support Game Die 16, provides emergency stabilizer shield, blocking next Sentinel attack. Wraithblade, phase strike Game Die 24, lethal hit on Marcus, reduced to 4 HP. Maxwell, final blow Game Die 23, lands decisive shot on Wraithblade, dissipating its form. Phase 4, Resolution. Marcus completes the recalibration process just as the Wraithblade phases out, leaving behind breachglass shards. The stabilizer pulses steadily, signaling the vault's containment. Ol Key Loot. Wraithblade Core Shard enhances weapon critical damage by +2. Echo Fragment, rare crafting material, infuses breachglass with Riftborn essence, augmenting armor or stabilizers. Vault 52 Stabilizer Relay reinforces future vault stabilizations by +10%. Face with monocle key clues. The Wraithblade's presence suggests Riftborn influence lingers deeper in Vault 52. Stabilizer fluctuations hint that secondary vault sectors remain vulnerable. Phoenix AI, Ramses. Well done. The node holds, for now. I detect further anomalies below. Shall we continue, or are reinforcements required? Phoenix AI, Ramses. Now that we're all accounted for, I'm increasing estimated survival probability by 4%. Post-encounter resolution. As Marcus completes the recalibration, the stabilizer pulses steadily. Faint traces of Riftborn energy dissipate, leaving the chamber quiet. Players gather breachglass shards and conduits that emerge from the stabilizer node. Ol Key Loot. Riftborn Echo Shard, a fragment of crystallized breach energy, useful for crafting or enhancing vault stabilizers. Stabilizer Conduit, Enhanced, a rare conduit that improves vault stabilizer efficiency by 15% when installed. Vault 52 Subcore Map Fragment, a partial map revealing hidden vault sectors beneath the stabilizer chamber. Face with monocle key clues. Riftborn echoes linger in breachglass seals, hinting that deeper vault anomalies may persist. Subcore map fragment reveals a hidden vault path beyond the current chamber. Crystal ball foreshadowing. Stabilizer pulses irregularly, indicating unstable metasphere activity beyond the current descent. Ramses flags intermittent anomalies, suggesting Riftborn forces remain dormant elsewhere. Game die player impact. Marcus, engineering, 17 stabilized breachglass path, plus 50 XP. Nyx, acrobatics, 14 sustained minor damage during descent, plus 40 XP. Jonah, athletics, 18 aided party traversal, plus 55 XP. Greta, arcana, 21 dispelled breachglass sigils, plus 60 XP. Maxwell, perception, 16 detected sigils along the corridor, plus 45 XP. Flavia, insight, 19 identified Riftborn presence, plus 55 XP. Darius, survival, 15 mapped vault hazards, plus 50 XP. Next steps. Continue descent into Vault 52's hidden sectors. Assess anomalies detected by Ramses in adjacent vault conduits. Recalibrate metasphere stabilizers further to purge lingering Riftborn echoes. Phoenix AI, Ramses. The vault still hums below. I estimate a 37% chance of additional Breachborn anomalies. In other words, fun awaits. Part 9. Vault 52. Aftermath and Stabilization. 10:30 p.m. to 11 p.m. Campaign Arc. Children of the Rift. Elysium Drift. Setting. Vault 52. Stabilizer Core Chamber. Players present. Marcus, Michael, Jonah, Bill, Greta, Kristen, Nyx, Jessica, Maxwell, Brennan Lee Mulligan, Darius, Matt Smith, Flavia, Felicia Day. Out of game. OG. Steve, GM, lets out a long breath, tapping the side of the breachglass display as the lights shift to a calm blue. Jonah, Bill, slumps back in his chair, tossing his dice idly while Nyx, Jessica, scribbles loot details into her notebook. Maxwell, Brennan, props his feet up, flashing a smug grin. Kristen, Greta, leans over to Marcus, Michael, examining his recalibration notes. Steve, GM. All right, the vault's stable for now. You've earned some breathing room. Ramses is scanning for residual anomalies, but nothing's tearing through the metasphere yet. Flavia, Felicia Day. Phoenix AI, Ramses. Vault stabilization at 85%. Excellent work. I would recommend a cautious departure. The vault has a habit of lingering. Jonah, Bill. Laughing? Lingering? That's what you call a vault that almost collapsed under our feet. Greta, Kristen. I mean, it is still standing. Technically. In-game reflection. The chamber hums faintly as the stabilizer's pulse evens out, the breachglass conduits no longer flickering with Riftborn energy. Scattered fragments from the fallen Wraithblade fade into glowing dust, leaving behind shards of breachglass that hum softly with metasphere resonance. Marcus, Michael. Wiping his brow, vaults holding together. But I'm reinforcing these nodes before we leave. Flavia, Felicia. Leaning against the console, I'm taking a piece of that Wraithblade home. It's earned. Darius, Matt. The vault might be stable, but Ramses' readings haven't dropped to 0. That means something's still out there. Phoenix AI, Ramses. Correct. Metasphere interference continues in sectors not yet explored. However, for the time being, all critical systems are under control. Nyx, Jessica. Which means we could leave. Or, we could dig deeper. Jonah, Bill. Or, we take the win and sleep for once. Post-encounter resolution. The team reinforces the vault stabilizer, gathering breachglass shards and salvaging remaining Riftborn cores. Faint Riftborn echoes hum within breachglass conduits, but they no longer breach into the physical plane. Ol Key loot. Wraithblade core shard enhances weapon critical damage by +2. Echo fragment. Rare crafting material infused with Riftborn essence, ideal for armor or stabilizer augmentation. Vault 52 stabilizer relay grants +10% efficiency on future vault stabilizer checks. Breachglass catalyst enhances arcana rolls related to vault stabilization by +2 for the next session. Residual rift key unlocks sealed breachglass doors within Vault 52, allowing access to unexplored sections. Face with monocle key clues. Stabilizer node readings show lingering metasphere anomalies beneath Vault 52. Riftborn activity is suppressed, but not fully extinguished. Further exploration may reveal the source. Crystal Ball Foreshadowing. Phoenix AI detects faint Riftborn signals deep below Vault 52, hinting that another sealed vault sector may await discovery. Breachglass conduits hum faintly, suggesting that Riftborn echoes remain dormant but present. Game-die player impact and XP gains. Marcus, Engineering, 19 stabilize the vault, preventing collapse. +150 XP. Nyx, Combat, 22 dealt critical blows to the Wraithblade. +140 XP. Jonah, Support, 17 protected auxiliary stabilizers. +130 XP. Greta, Arcana, 20 nullified metasphere hazards. +140 XP. Maxwell, Protection, 18 prevented node disruption. +130 XP. Flavia, Healing, 19 restored critical health during the encounter. +140 XP. Darius, Support, 15 reinforced auxiliary stabilizers. +125 XP. Character updates. Marcus, Michael +2 engineering tools, upgraded stabilizer efficiency by 10%. Nyx, Jessica acquired Wraithblade core shard. Weapon critical hits now deal +2 damage. Jonah, Bill +1 to perception rolls while within vault environments. Greta, Kristen Echo Fragment integrated into gear, +1 to arcana rolls during vault encounters. Maxwell, Brennan Protection rating improved, shield gains +5 temporary HP once per encounter. Flavia, Felicia gained healing focus, restores +1d8 HP during long rests. Darius, Matt stabilizer relay installed, +5% stabilizer integrity during breach events. Next steps. Continue exploration of Vault 52 or return to the surface for resupply. Investigate residual Riftborn anomalies flagged by Ramses. Prepare for deeper metasphere breaches or potential destabilization events. Phoenix AI, Ramses. I estimate a 47% chance that something will attempt to kill us during your next exploration cycle.